One of the very nicest things about life is the way in which we must regularly stop whatever we are doing and devote our attention to eating. Now, I know this may sound weird to say, but just think about it. What is it about food that brings people together? Is it the act of gathering around the table? Is it the food itself, or is it something else? Now, I want you to keep that question in the back of your mind and answer it at the end. But first, I want to tell you a little story about my Uncle Mike and my cousin Blake, who rolled up one day in a dusty white truck with a red ice chest full of crawfish, a sack of potato and corn, and a freshly picked watermelon. It was a great surprise to see him. We hadn't seen him for a long time. And the reason he came up is he had promised my siblings and I that he would give us some crawfish once he had drained the rice field for harvest season. And he was good on his word, because once we saw what he brought us, we immediately started preparing for the feast. My mom went straight to the house to start boiling the crawdads. My dad and uncle went down to the reservoir to start grilling up the potatoes and corn. My siblings and I started slicing up the watermelons and paper bags to cover the table, so we didn't make a complete mess of ourselves. And a couple hours later, everything was ready. The food was all ready and prepared, and we just had to pour it all along the side middle of the table like a runner, scattered the corn and potatoes in between, and we all dug in. And we all had different ways of going about what the best way is to eat crawdads. Some like to pile them up, eat one at a time. Others like to slurp the heads, like my uncle, like they do in Louisiana. But me, I prefer sitting there and just shelling the crawdads till you get a pile full. And you can fill up a bowl where you can pour warm garlic butter over the whole thing and eat it with a fork. And let me tell you, it is delicious because it tastes a lot like a lobster, yet is sweeter and doesn't have the salt. Makes it way better. And surprisingly, although I loved the food, and everyone did, we stuffed our faces, the best part of the whole meal wasn't the food itself. It was all the prior memories that had went into it. And what I mean by that is I can remember as a kid going through the canals and ditches over in Calusa, trying to catch crawdads with my hands or net, just to get a mouthful, just to taste them. But normally ending short-lived and then having to make the crawdads a pet like a goldfish, or having a couple to antagonize the dogs and just try to get one of the crawdads to pinch the dog on the nose. Or our other tradition was my siblings and I used to always go in my grandpa's watermelon patch and choose the biggest, ripest watermelon we could possibly find, get one of us on each end and one in the center, and carry it out into the middle of the cow pasture or the orchard and pick it up as high as we could, and then drop it and watch it go splat on the ground, and then we'd all dig in like vultures with our spoons, yet never swallowing the seeds. We'd always keep the seeds to our side of the cheek, because our grandpa had always told us that if we ate too many seeds, they were going to sprout in our stomach and come out our ears, and we were terrified of that. And so I just remember little memories like that. And that's why it wasn't the food, it wasn't the good-natured surprise, it was the memories that made that meal one of my best meals ever. And so let me ask you again, what is it about food that brings people together?